another thing, Kylie, my Kelsey can actually score touchdowns. Your Kelsey just blocks. Whose is actually better?
Mine helps produce touchdowns.
Well, my Kelsey, he actually, can trash talk properly, unlike yours, who just gets drunk and dresses up like a what's that thing that Philadelphians do?
The mummer parade, the mummer outfit.
Yeah, and another thing, your city is weird. You do that, and your sports fans they have a jail. Oh shit, we're recording. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Beer Battered Sports Podcast, the podcast created by sports fans for sports
Stupid.
fans, because we believe that we are the most qualified to talk about our favorite teams, and sometimes we get carried up in arguing when our teams play each other in the Super Bowl. Kylie,
Hey, they're your second team. I
I have good reason, by the way. I just before we even begin today's episode, I just want to make it very clear because Mike, who works with us with Fired Up Sports, had this was on Twitter. He's like, "How many teams does Isaac have?" Because you guys know I'm a fan of both the Bucks and the Chiefs. Those are the only two teams I actually like, and I have good reason for liking both of them. I'm from Florida. I grew up in Tampa Bay, so I'm a Bucks fan. But my parents, at least my mom's side, are from Kansas City. There we go. I'm allowed to have two teams. If it was more than two teams, then you can start
go
calling me a fake
birds,
fan. Your birds
go
are nothing.
birds,
Your birds are nothing.
go birds.
You had an easy schedule. All right. Anyway, look, as you guys
Beat
can
us
tell,
then.
we will. We did last year.
Hmm.
As you guys can
Better
clearly
team.
tell, we're getting excited for the Super Bowl coming up. We're gonna do a more in-depth preview of the Super Bowl next week, but this week we're gonna talk about all the crazy stuff that happened in the world of sports, like we always do. Shout out to Fired Up
Yeah.
Sports. We're a proud affiliate of them. They're awesome. Go follow them. Follow all the podcasts that we're a part of. And yeah, let's start things off by talking about probably well, first off, we have to, acknowledge the fact that we're missing one person today. Calvin couldn't be here today.
Oh
He had
yeah.
some business to take care of, but he does send his regards, and he has one thing to say. And let me pull up the text. What does he have to say?
I have a quote. I have the quote.
Yeah, because we're going to start with his quote.
Okay, let's see. Did where's the conversation? There it is.
Tom, Tom.
Oh wait, Brady did retire.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about that first or the Super Bowl
Was that
weekend
what he
or
was
the
going to say?
championship weekend? This is a
Was,
Tom retirement.
yeah, we're talking about Brady first. We're going to segue. We talked about this before we went live.
Whatever. Okay, Brady did retire, so
Calvin,
let's
take us
get
away.
into that.
Tom, Tommy boy. It's been a road. It's been a long journey, Tommy boy. Sad it has to come to an end. I'm very sorry that it took me until your last 3 years of your career to appreciate your greatness and what you've done for this game for 20 plus years now. It's a very sad day, man. It's very, very sad to see you go. You know, I just started to like you, man. Just started to appreciate your greatness and shit. Just started to vouch for you and be like, man, this is Tom Brady. You know who the fuck this is? This is Tom Brady. You know? So, but thanks, Tom. Thank you. I appreciate it very much for what you brought to this game for 20 plus years. It's an amazing thing. Very amazing thing.
Hold on.
LeBron is still the greatest athlete in this generation, though.
Okay.
But I appreciate your greatness.
Okay.
He had to throw that part in there. I don't know why, but it's Calvin.
So the big news that came on when we woke up this morning was that Tom Brady's officially retiring. He confirmed it. It doesn't feel as impactful as last year's fake retirement did, I think. But I'm glad to see that Tom was the one who broke the story rather than it be Adam Schefter. I think that's why Tom decided to come back for one more year.
I agree, actually.
He didn't want to get one up by Adam Schefter, but I will say this as a Bucks fan. These last 3 years have been a real emotional roller coaster because on the one hand, we had the greatest quarterback, probably the greatest player in NFL history, not named Jerry Rice, on our team, leading us to a Super Bowl, and making us, giving us, 2 division championships and allowing the Bucks to emerge from, nearly 20 years of being terrible and finally, becoming good again. But on the other hand, while I appreciate Brady for having some of his best seasons with the Bucks and ending his career with us, on the other hand, his presence on the Bucks made Tampa Bay the most hated team in the NFL. And to kind of try and go from hating the dude's guts while he was with the Patriots for so many years, now expected to completely turn around and be like, okay, yeah, I'm cool with you. That was hard to do. And I will say it was hard.
Yeah.
That Super Bowl ring, that second Super Bowl always is a little iffy for me because it doesn't feel like we fully earned it in my way. It's a weird way to say this. I know if there's any Bucks fans listening, you're gonna say, "What the hell? You're crazy, man. We won the Super Bowl with him." Yeah, but it felt like we bought it. And I'm not doing this to bash Tom Brady. He's 100% the greatest athlete of all time. Well, actually, greatest football player of all time. Greatest football player of all time, not named Jerry Rice. Greatest quarterback of all time. But the harm that he brought to Tampa Bay and that now nobody likes us and everybody thinks of the Bucks as, just being, a team that paid for a Super Bowl. It's rough. And it was also rough this season. I mean, you could clearly tell that Brady was, his production had gone down a cliff and the Bucks honestly were pretty bad. Honestly, if he had just stayed retired, it would have been a better story, I think, because last year, going out with one of his best ever seasons, and going down to the wire against the Rams, one last great comeback that ultimately came up just short. That would have been perfect. Instead, his legacy will be he went out by getting blown out by the Dallas Cowboys, who are playing without a kicker. Fun. I appreciate what he brought to the Bucks. I appreciate that he brought us Super Bowl. I appreciate that he helped us Bucks fans feel something for the first time in 2 decades. And while I know I just listed off a bunch of reasons why I kind of didn't like the fact that he was on the Bucks, at the end of the day, the dude was an absolute animal on the field. Just an animal. I think he only got hurt once in his entire career. That's ridiculous. So Tom, congrats on an amazing career. Stay the hell away from Tampa Bay.
Here's my thing with that. So, with you buying a championship, you guys had that roster.
We did.
You had that roster. That was pretty much a completely homegrown roster. Damn near all of it.
It was.
So, every team, it goes to show that the team is nothing if you don't have a good quarterback. And so when Brady came to Tampa Bay, that was the final piece you guys needed. And it showed. Year 1, you guys won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. So as much as it was annoying for you guys to have to deal with the hate, and because believe me, I get it. I hate when my team is the one people are rooting against. But he did get you guys at a Super Bowl. He did, he is the best quarterback in your franchise's history.
Yeah, he is. That's pretty damning to the Bucks' history of drafting quarterbacks. If only Steve Young had worked out during that. You do not get it. You have been blessed with incredibly talented athletes as an Eagles fan.
Look, so our quarterbacks since 1933, Ron Jaworski, Donovan McNabb, Mike Vick, Carson Wentz, debatable. He is up there, and Randall Cunningham.
I was about to say, if you skip Randall, I'm gonna.
I don't know what.
You down.
So obviously, Vic is below. Pretty much is below all 4 of the
I don't even consider Vic a legit quarterback for the Eagles. He only had 1 good year there.
Yeah, and he had a good year.
That 22 Eagles team. That 22 Eagles team. If it wasn't for the fact that Aaron Rodgers was on a seek and destroy mission once the Packers got to the playoffs, that Eagles team could have made some noise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the NFC that year was really weak when you consider you had a Falcons team with a negative point differential and a Bears team led by Caleb Haney as the top 2 seeds, plus a 7-9 Seahawks team winning their division.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that Carson Wentz is statistically our 4th best quarterback of all time, I do get it. And we haven't had a wide receiver since Devontae Smith. Before that, it was we hadn't or AJ Brown. We hadn't had a true like elite wide receiver since potentially Terrell Owens. I think I am completely blanking right now off the top of my head, but I get it. We've been through some shit too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Yoni's right. You guys did get AB, Gronk, and Leonard Fournette. But and Gronk did kind of go stupid in the Super Bowl. But I mean, that was pretty much homegrown talent. So if I were you, I would love the hate because I mean, from someone who constantly gets hate for my teams,
hmm
it's you learn to just ignore it. It's not a big deal. People are going to hate regardless. They got to find somebody to hate. So.
My fear is that they're going to start turning on Mahomes and the Chiefs now because they're now the new dominant team. But like I said a couple episodes ago, I found it hard to hate Mahomes. I mean, but just go after his brother. His brother's been quiet this year, so maybe not. Whatever.
Don't go after them, but
no.
His wife and his brother are the.
Nah. Brittany's mellowed out since becoming a mom, and Jackson's had a stern talking to with Pat Senior. Pat Senior's told him to get off the damn TikTok, and
Has he? Is that true?
I'm gonna assume it has because I haven't seen Jackson do anything stupid over the past season, and if the Chiefs made it back to the Super Bowl, so that could mean only one thing. Patrick's family have shut up.
It's true.
Hey,
if you guys are deciding on who to root for, just remember we don't have Jackson Mahomes or Brittany Mahomes. So go Birds.
We'll decide the Super Bowl later. But let's. I like that shirt, by the way. Nice pickup.
Thank you. Got it in Philly.
Before we move on to talk about the actual conference championship games, because we got a lot to talk about with those, let's quickly talk about some other news in the NFL. Once again, great career, Tom Brady. He's actually the last of the quarterbacks of my childhood to retire. So I guess now I can finally become an adult.
Thanks for giving us a villain for 20 years.
It was wonderful to root against you, Tom, and root for you that 1 year before I realized how. Never mind. So we do have some new hires, including some new coaches. First up, Kellen Moore was released by the Cowboys. They basically said they decided he was their problem and not Mike McCarthy. He got picked up by the Chargers. I think that's an awesome pickup because think about it. Kellen Moore is kind of an offensive guru. If he's able to make Dak Prescott look like a presentable quarterback, imagine what he could do with an actual good quarterback at Justin Herbert.
Was he hired as the offensive coordinator or the quarterback's coach?
Let me double. Not the head coach. They're keeping Brendan Staley for some reason.
That's right. So it has to be the OC.
Offensive coordinator. I think that's going to be good. The Chargers this year showed a lot of promise. They showed what they can be until they got to the playoffs and things happened. We don't talk about. So I'm excited to see what will happen. Maybe it'll make the AFC West actually competitive after last year it was not. We have two new head coaching hires. Sean Payton has been announced as the head coach of the Broncos, so good joy.
And they trade.
Yeah, they traded Sean Payton. I can't. So the Saints still owned Sean Payton's rights, basically.
Not anymore. Well, they did, and then they traded him, so now the Broncos own the rights. Like a player.
Am I the only one who's that's kind of concerning? That they that a team could just own the rights to a coach.
It's a contract he signs.
True.
He didn't finish out the contract he signed with the Saints, so it works just like a player's contract.
True. Okay, I get that. I don't know. I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I have strong opinions on Sean Payton and anyone associated with that certain franchise.
Same deal when Gronk unretired to play for Bucks. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I I can't root for the Broncos anymore. I mean, I already didn't like them
That's
because
fine.
look, I'm sorry, anyone involved with that certain team that shall not be named that won that Super Bowl in 2009, I can't be associated with them. So, you know, have fun, Sean. The other new coaching hire, this one I like. DeMeco Ryans is the new head coach of the Houston Texans. They gave him a big deal. What was it, like 6 years, something, 20 something
It was a
million?
6-year, yeah, but he's gonna get fired after year one.
I don't know. Hey, DeMeco Ryans managed to create that San Francisco defense. I think, and he played for the Texans. That I think
That's right, he did.
I think he could vibe with the culture. I've been saying for years, Houston is the next team due to have, have their big breakout to get to, have their big breakout performance. They're the only team in the NFL, other than I guess the new Browns, that haven't had a huge breakout performance yet, where they've finally asserted themselves as a legit team. I think they're due for one. By the way, for big breakout performance, I mean make it to the third round of the playoffs, which they and the new Browns, I think, are the only teams that have never done that.
To the conference championship?
Yeah, because I know Jacksonville, Tennessee have. Colts, yeah.
Dude, every time I always forget that Jacksonville made it because it's like
Twice. 3 times, no. 3 times they did.
yeah, but like in 2017
Saxonville was weird,
with Blake Bortles.
but that wasn't even their breakout year. Their breakout years were the late 90s when Tom Coughlin had that stacked roster and they couldn't get anything done with it. Just happens.
Yeah, it was. It's just it's crazy to think about.
I'll be
these
excited.
Random teams.
I'll be excited to see what happens with DeMeco Ryans, though. Houston, I think last year they showed a lot of fight, even though they were terrible. They showed that there were a couple of games where the Texans played way better than expected. I think there's something there. There's some diamond there in the rough. I think they just need to find the right coach to find it. And Lovie Smith, unfortunately, was Lovie Smith and the guy before him. Who was the guy before him? Steve Wilkes? No, he was the Cardinals.
I forget.
The
Bill
David
O'Brien?
guy. No, not Bill O'Brien. He's the one who started this mess. The David guy, 2021's coach. 2021. David Culley.
Hmm.
David Culley and Lovie Smith were kind of sacrificial lambs that were thrown into the fire just so the Texans could, get worse and worse and get that good draft capital.
Mhm.
Now they have that, and they seem to have found their coach of the future. But we'll see what happens. Miko Ryans actually has to work out. So
the Ravens still have to hire an offensive coordinator.
I think they might go. I would be targeting Byron Leftwich, who just left the Bucks job. Leftwich.
Yeah, for sure.
I kind of feel bad for Leftwich because he was kind of forced into a situation where he was working with a coach who isn't that good, and had a quarterback who was aging and a running game that wasn't all there that year. I think he could really help out with the Ravens, and I think it would also be incentive to keep Lamar around.
What I think Baltimore should do, they have a first-round draft pick. And I keep looking at Vegas, especially with Brady gone. Rodgers is going to stay in Tampa Bay, or not Tampa Bay. He's going to stay in Green Bay or retire. And he's not going anywhere. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of this dude. Like, he annoys the crap out of me.
Yeah, everybody likes to bitch about Tom Brady, but can we bitch about Aaron Rodgers real quick?
Dude, all I do is bitch about Aaron Rodgers. He's been so frustrating. And last year I was like, okay, let's play this and let's see what he does. And we recorded the podcast, and then a week later we recorded again, and he stayed with Green Bay and teased everybody because it's who he is. And I get it. I would love to mess with the media as a player, but people are still like kind of falling for it. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. So scratch that. Devontae Adams is not going back to Green Bay. If he was going back to Green Bay, he would have stayed in Green Bay. So if I'm Baltimore, I'm calling up Vegas and being like, give me Adams. Or I'm calling Arizona and saying, give me D-Hop.
I don't know if Arizona's willing to part with him just yet. Unless
They
they're
are.
committed. Oh, yeah. Well, if they're committed to a full rebuild, then.
How are you going to rebuild with... the Arizona Cardinals are in a weird spot as well. But if I'm Baltimore, I know Arizona is looking to move D-Hop. I'm calling them. I'm seeing what they want. But I'm really trying to target Adams, but D Hop is a good second option. And I think that'll tell Lamar, hey, look, we are going to try to build this team around you and give you a freaking weapon for once in your life. So, yeah, they don't need too much else. Their defense isn't all that bad. And give Lamar a wide receiver, and look what that team is going to do. Look what Hurts has been doing this year with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. That team has exploded this year on offense. Looks completely different from last year. And I mean, while that does help with Hurts' progression, he's a stud, but having that true wide receiver one will definitely help, and especially with mobile quarterbacks. Um, you know, Lamar is able to run, he's able to pass, he's able to hand the ball. Like he can do three different things and you don't know what he's going to do. You can line up in the same formation three different times and run three different plays
Yeah.
with him, and you don't know. So it's just things like that where if I'm Baltimore, I'm seriously calling Vegas and Arizona, who look to be doing like at a stalemate right now in terms of where they are. That's my thought on it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move on to the actual conference championship games, because both of these games had a lot of big storylines, and we'll start with the NFC, where the Eagles just destroyed San Francisco. And Kylie, how did you feel about this one? Your team's back for the first time in second time in 5 years.
Yeah.
You were telling me a little bit before we started the show what your opinion was on the game. I want to hear it again. You want to tell the fabulous people listening at home.
So I hear Brock Purdy is going to be out for 6 months after the injury that Hassan Reddick laid on him. It wasn't intentional, obviously.
Could have been.
It wasn't. He was just going for the ball. There's no way it was intentional. But things kind of started to heat up and tension was kind of there. And when Brock Purdy got hurt, I was like, okay, we're probably going to the Super Bowl. I didn't want to celebrate, especially then, because it felt like you were celebrating an injury instead of going to the Super Bowl. And I was just kind of trying to not be excited for a second and just hope that my team can actually win this game still. And they did. And then they became sore losers at the end. It was really pathetic to see. Trent Williams threw Kayvon Wallace to the ground, and it was just ridiculous.
Trent Williams has a habit of doing that. He the famous clip of him punching Richard Sherman after a game. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
I think this Eagles team has been the class of the NFC all season long. You know, from the very beginning, they had a little bit of a rough patch at the end of the season because Hurts got hurt, and Minshew wasn't able to get the same results. But at the end of the day, they were easily the best team in the NFC, and they showed it in the playoffs. They outscored their opponents 69-14. That's incredible.
Nice.
That is probably one of the best playoff runs ever since like maybe the 85 Bears. Not even the 2007 Patriots did better in their playoff games. Both of their playoff games were surprisingly closer than expected, and then of course they lost. You know?
I just want to say though, Jonathan Gannon, I'm sorry. The defense has been great this postseason, so keep it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That game was complete domination. Philly celebrated as expected. Did you see the video of the fans getting on top of the bus stop and then the roof of the bus stop collapsing? It's classic Philly. They
greased the poles. They literally were out there during the day greasing up the poles, making sure people can't climb, and it still didn't work. It didn't work in the World Series either. To be fair, it did rain, but it didn't rain this time, and it still didn't work. So.
Man, I love Philly fans
Philly's
so
gonna
much.
find a way, bro.
No matter what happens, you're gonna destroy your own city. Man,
Look,
yeah.
it's great. And if we do win, I'm gonna be at the parade. And if I'm
What do
still
you
at
mean
the
if you
parade,
do win? You're
if
not
we
gonna
win,
win. You're not gonna win.
there's always a chance.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. The other championship game was a little closer. That was the Chiefs Bengals game. This game had me an emotional wreck the whole time because
Yeah.
all I wanted to do was beat that cocky son of a bitch, Joe Burrow. You know, they talked shit all week. The mayor of Cincinnati was talking shit. They went in there, and I shouldn't have gotten excited at the half because we're up 13-6, and I'm thinking we're dominating this game. We've sacked Burrow 4 times. We've got this. We're gonna be fine. And then they started coming back, and it was tight. It was tight, and you know, whenever I watch Chiefs games, I always get texts from my mom because she's a huge Chiefs fan. I always get texts from her how much she hates Harrison Butker and how she hates that he never kicks straight. She was singing his praises when he kicked that game-winning field goal, got us back
I
to the
bet
Super
she
Bowl.
was.
That game it was it. Ah, we finally beat Joe Burrow. In the words of NASCAR driver Mike Skinner when he ended Jeff Gordon's winning streak in 1998 at the season finale. Yeah, we finally beat that cocky son of a bitch. Woo! Got that bastard. You know, Travis Kelce, of course, post game is just going off. It's awesome.
I was just about to say when he said to the mayor, know your role, shut your mouth, you jabroni. That was the funniest thing.
Travis Kelce is such a fan of the WWE Attitude Era that, you know, anytime the Chiefs do something good, you know, he's going to quote the Attitude Era. I got to start watching the podcast that he and Jason have, especially now that they're playing each other.
You don't watch it, bro? It's so funny. Do you follow him on TikTok?
I need to. I've been behind on that.
It's so funny. They've obviously dropped the latest podcast with, you know, the teams in the Super Bowl, and it's the funniest thing. And I recently saw a clip of when Jason's daughter came on, and he was like, "Who is that?" And his daughter was like, "Hi, Uncle Travi," in this adorable kid's voice. And
Oh,
Travis was like, "Hey, baby girl, how you doing?" And like the most innocent. It was so pure and adorable. Like it's genuinely like a great podcast.
I got to start watching it then. By the way, the uniforms for Super Bowl 57 have been revealed. The Eagles will be wearing green jerseys with a Super Bowl patch on the side, white pants, white socks. Pants will have the dark green and black stripe down the side and their
Of
regular
course.
helmets.
Yeah.
Chiefs are going to be wearing the white jerseys, red pants, white stripes down the side.
Oh,
And
they are
then
wearing white?
they're going for white, white on
Okay.
red
Because
helmets.
I
And then,
saw. Sorry.
yeah, I would have been cool to see if they wore all white like they used like the first Super Bowl, but they decided to go for the look they had when they decided to go for white. So I think
No,
this.
because I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say I saw that someone was speculating they were wearing red jerseys and it was gonna be red, green, and colorblind. People were gonna just like not have a good time watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was like that one game, that one Thursday night game when the Bills and the Jets wore red and green in the Color Rush era. God, Color Rush was such a weird era in the NFL.
It was, but it made for good Madden uniforms.
Yeah, everyone remembers the toilet bowl between the Jags and the Titans. I'll be the toilet water if you bring you be the clean water. That's what that was. One thing
Exactly.
from this game that we do want to discuss, though, is something revolving around a topic that has become much more mainstream in the NFL, and that is the hashtag
Oh,
NFL is rigged movement. A lot of
oh,
fans have started coming out and saying, because of what they saw during the course of this season, what several former players have said, including a new interview that dropped today from Arian Foster, which I'll get into in a second, plus the a couple of incidents that happened during the AFC Championship game. The calls saying that the NFL is rigged, I've never been stronger. And yeah, y'all are all crazy or brain dead or something, because here's the thing. Okay. So the main reason why so many people are saying that the AFC Championship game was rigged because of two instances. Well, mainly three. First, there were a couple of missed calls the refs had on the Bengals, which, yeah, the refs sometimes miss calls. They do a lot. They definitely should be held accountable for it. But that didn't end up impacting the game at all because the Bengals kept making mistakes. Secondly, there was that whole really fucky situation in the third quarter where the refs gave the Chiefs an extra down. Yeah, there's no excuse for that. I'm not gonna. That one was just the refs' horrible miscommunication there, and they tried to say that it was the crowd noise at Arrowhead, and it could be because Arrowhead is really, really loud.
Mhm.
But still, the way the refs handled that was like, ooh, that was really weird. It ended up not mattering though because the Chiefs had to punt anyway. So, at the point, and then there was the final play. The reason why the Chiefs were even in field goal range in the first place was because a Bengals player whose name is escaping me now, you know, hit Mahomes out of bounds, got unnecessary roughness penalty, which immediately everyone said this game is rigged.
Yeah, and it didn't help that in the NFC Championship game, Devontae Smith had this what looked to be a catch. It was incredible. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And it was a catch up until the last angle you looked at. There was
Yeah,
one angle where it showed that it wasn't a catch. And that got us a touchdown at the end of the drive. So I can see, believe me, I hate refs just as much as anybody. I'm going to go on a rant when we talk about the NBA,
oh, we will.
but I have so much to say. But to say it's rigged, I think it's more just human error.
Yeah, because the referees are only people. They're gonna make mistakes, and sometimes they
Yeah.
do make really bad mistakes, like 2018 NFC Championship game, where they missed the pass interference call. But to say the NFL is rigged because of that, no, no, it's
No.
not. You know how many people you would need to keep quiet if the NFL was rigged? How come there haven't been any whistleblowers? And I know what people are going to say. Didn't that interview with Arian Foster just drop where he, alleged that everything is scripted? All right. Did you listen to that interview with a straight face and not tell me that that man is suffering from CTE? I know that probably sounds really harsh, and somebody like, well, Isaac, that's kind of controversial to say. No, it's the truth. You know, if you're going to get me a whistleblower, get me a whistleblower who, actually sounds like he's talking about something, knows what he's talking about. The whole situation is this. Sometimes the refs make controversial calls. And in the case of the Chiefs Bengals game, yeah, they made one messed up call, one bad call. That play at the end where the Bengals player knocked Mahomes out of bounds was a mistake by that player. A mistake that,
Yeah.
surprisingly, and this is a side note, he got called out for by his own teammate for that. Jermaine Pratt was yelling at him afterwards, like, why the hell you touched the quarterback? I'm surprised that doesn't happen more. I'm surprised players don't get that angry more because it's like, yeah, like, why the hell? In the heat of the moment, players tend to make mistakes. The emotions get to them and they forget where they are for a split second. It happens. Just because a game is way closer than expected, because a lot of people thought the Bengals were going to destroy the Chiefs, especially considering Mahomes had his leg hurt. Just because a game is closer than expected, just because there's a couple of bad calls in a game, does not mean that that game is rigged. Now, obviously, there have been games in the past where that has been the case. The NBA with Tim Donaghy in the 2002 Western Conference Finals. That, if you want to look at actual games that were rigged, look at that. Look at that where calls are constantly being made that are favoring one team over the other. This game, not really. Not that I can recall of. And am I a little biased because I'm a Chiefs fan? Maybe. But at the end of the day, if you cannot make a case for the NFL being rigged without sounding like a Bengals fan, I'm not going to believe you. I also think that sports betting has really played a big part into it. It's one of the reasons why I think people in general just don't enjoy sports anymore, because everybody's only in it for the money and for the betting. And if they end up losing a bet, instead of, accepting like, damn, well, I lost my money, they do what people normally do when they lose a lot of money. They freak out. It's why so many people seem to, be so angry about sports, why we have so many contrarians as sports fans nowadays, because everyone's just in it for betting. And when their bets don't go their way, they lose their cool and they start looking for somebody to blame that isn't them for making a bad bet. It's not going to. Sports fans have become extremely negative and contrarian in the past couple of decades, and I think that sports betting has played a part of that. The amount of people who, after a great game like the Chiefs and the Bengals played, an excellent game, one of the best AFC Championship games I've ever seen, the amount of people who afterwards, instead of being like, wow, what a great game, were like, rigged. That shit was rigged from the beginning. Fuck the Chiefs. Fuck the refs. The amount of people who came out and were like that is like, y'all just don't enjoy sports anymore.
Yeah,
And I
it's
get
insane.
Yeah, and I know this. I'll finish up my rant in a sec, but because I know we want to get to basketball so we can hear Kylie's rant. But at the end of the day, at some point, you have to take a step back and take a breath. I had this issue
Yeah.
happen to me back during the pandemic where I started to not find sports as enjoyable anymore. I was getting really angry. And what I realized was I was taking it way too seriously. You need to step back, relax, and remind yourself it's just a game. Who cares? At the end of the day, it's just a game. And I know some people get passionate about their sports teams. I do too. And I'm not going to judge people for being passionate. Kylie, especially Kylie. I'm not going to judge you. But the just amount of negativity towards sports, and especially this most recent AFC Championship game, has got me thinking like everyone needs to relax and stop freaking out and stop getting so angry about this. We're just people. There's nothing we can do. And I know people feel helpless about it, but at the end of the day, it's like it's just a game. You don't need to like break your TV or go on Twitter, start claiming the NFL is rigged or say all this terrible stuff. Okay. Because honestly, at the end of the day, all you're doing is making your digital footprint look really bad.
Yeah.
But I rest
And
my case. End of the day,
yeah.
NFL's not rigged. Everyone needs to relax. Bengals fans are salty. Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl.
Chiefs are not going to win the Super Bowl. I hope not.
That's debatable.
But you and Calvin are both taking the Chiefs to win. We all know who I'm picking.
We'll go more in depth in our Super Bowl picks next week when it's a
Yeah.
week before the game.
We
But
already know.
yeah,
So
you have a rant about the refs too, right?
yeah, I do, and this is a perfect segue into NBA.
All right.
So before we get into the All-Star game and the trade deadline and the rising stars, I was at the Sixers Magic game on Monday.
Okay.
It was a Christmas present. My mom got me really good tickets at really good seats, and we both went. And it was fun. It was a fun day in general. And so we get to the game. We're destroying them. We're up by 20. Magic can't make a basket to save their life. And then we blow it. It's a 10-point lead going into half. And I'm like, I already know what's going to happen not because of a script or anything, but because the Sixers just love blowing leads. And I was hoping I was wrong, but I was right. I saw it happening. And the Magic started to come back after half too, and all of a sudden it was a tie game late into the third. And Magic started to pull away a tiny, tiny bit. And the refs were just making so many bad calls. It got so bad that that all of us were yelling, "Ref, you suck," so loud it wasn't even funny. Like it was so bad, and they just made some really terrible calls, and it just made me think like, well, obviously that's not why we lost. We had a 20-point lead, and we were also in it till the very end.
Yeah.
We lost ourselves, and if you're blaming the refs, that's no. But the refs in any sport do not get repercussions. They get slandered on social media, big whoop, who cares? That social media is not real life. And they get no repercussions. Meanwhile, if Joel Embiid, for example, were to say, yeah, those are some really bad calls, it affected my playing. And, he had 5 fouls on him. So we had to play soft defense so we didn't get his 6th foul call and get him kicked out of the game because we needed him at the end. So if he were to say anything like that, not even like aggressively or anything, just calmly saying like, yeah, they made some pretty bad calls tonight, he gets fined thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And these refs affect outcomes of games. They have so much power, and they even abuse it by, giving players texts for no reason. Look at Curry throwing his mouth guard. Tatum got a tech for something a while ago. Like, these refs have so much power to the point where they abuse it, and they have zero repercussion for it. And that is my biggest issue. The refs should be fined or have some sort of some sort of consequence for making such a bad call. There's this one play specifically at the Sixers game I was at where Maxi blew through two defenders and made a layup. And this one of the these two Wagners, I hate them now. They pissed me off during the game. They oh my god, they pissed me off. But
Good. Let the hate flow through you.
oh dude, I was so bad. I was right there with the rest of the fans yelling obscenities and everything.
Good.
Yeah. So the Philly came out in me, which is fine. It happens. But regardless, like this one of the idiots got hit in the face, I think by himself. And they called a foul against Maxi and the bucket didn't count. And they were going to see if it was a flagrant. Maxi didn't even touch him, let alone get a flagrant foul. And they still called the foul, but didn't rule it a flagrant.
I feel like
things like that.
I get you. I feel like there needs to be more accountability for referees. If they make bad calls,
absolutely
punishments. We don't see that. That's the problem.
No.
Like, we can complain about the refs all we want, but at the end of the day, if nobody's holding them accountable for making bad calls, if the league isn't telling them, okay, you made a bad call that affected the outcome of the game, you're suspended for that, there needs to be incentive for the refs to do their job the right way. They also
absolutely,
and they need to get better. I think they need to keep. This could be also could be a factor with the rise of sports betting. You got to make sure the refs aren't in on it, because if the refs are in on it, you got to find people who aren't interested in sports betting. If you find people who aren't interested in sports betting, make them the refs. Maybe that'll help with the.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
It's hard. It's one of those things. I don't know. And again, I'll relate back to my rant I went on. Obviously, there's going to be some refs who make a bad call once or twice. I'm talking about the refs who make bad calls that end up affecting the outcome of games overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think most people will put that that label on any ref who makes a bad call, but you really have to think about it. Like, think about the 2018 NFC Championship game real quick. You know how the missed pass interference call was terrible, but did that completely affect the outcome of the game? Well, no. Even though the game did end up going to overtime, the Saints still had multiple opportunities that they blew. That call was still atrocious, and the NFL had to address it. But at the end of the day, did it completely change the outcome of the game? Not necessarily. It definitely helped a little bit, but not to the level that I think some people would point out. Meanwhile, you look at games like the 2002 Western Conference Final. That's a case where the referees did affect the outcome of the game. They completely shut down Sacramento at all costs and would let the Kings get away with anything. So I think that's the main thing people need to look at, because I feel like too many refs are getting blamed for making a bad call and said, oh, it changed the outcome of the game. It's like, well, it didn't. It was a bad call, but that team was still going to lose anyway.
Right.
But you do have a good point. Hell, I call a lot of college basketball games at my job, and a game I was calling last night, one of the players on the women's team got thrown out of the game because she questioned a call for the ref. The ref made the call, and she went up and she was like, "Are you serious? Really? Are we seeing the same thing?" And he was like, "You're out of here."
Yeah, dude. I mean, when I used to play basketball, I used to play softball, and especially with softball, I was, I'm short and I have a small strike zone, and especially when kids are, still learning how to play games and stuff, they can't pitch to my strike zone, so I would always draw walks, which is why I never developed a hit. But they would always walk me, but they would always call strikes like when they were up here, up to like my chin. And every time I would get mad at the refs and the umpires, and there would always be a bad call on me playing basketball, and it's just like I never have any sympathy. It's just, well, you can't blame them for losses. That's kind of a loser mentality. They do affect games. and a certain call at the very end of the game, if you call it wrong, Celtics Lakers, for example, that was a foul on LeBron.
Yeah.
People also say he traveled. Look, about the travel, shut up. Nobody calls travel anymore. Ignore it. Whatever. Especially because the Celtics won. Shut up. But that was a foul on LeBron. They didn't call it. They ended up losing the game. While they did have time in overtime to win. And another example that I'm reminded of is years ago when Harden was on the Rockets. It was years ago. Harden went for a dunk. He dunked it, and he hit it with so much power. The ball went through the hoop, out, and like back in or something like that. And they said it was it didn't go in, but clearly it did go in. And so that went into overtime, and the Rockets lost. So again, they did have time in overtime to win and seal the game and everything, but they wouldn't have needed that if the refs called the right thing.
Yeah.
So it's points like that where I'm just like, they need consequences. Not being able to to referee in the playoffs or the NBA finals is not enough, because while the refs that have the best accuracy and the umpires that have the best accuracy in baseball go on to referee and umpire in the postseason, that's not enough incentive at all.
Yeah. No,
Clearly,
I agree.
they're still awful, and just they need to fine them. Obviously, not as much as the players, because I don't think they make as much as the players do at all. But fine them or suspend them for a year or do something like that, because it's getting ridiculous. They don't care. There's no repercussion. They get to mess with players all the time, and they get no consequences for it.
Yeah.
But if a player complains, bam, $20,000 fine.
It's unacceptable.
It is. It absolutely is. Another unacceptable thing that I'm not even going to really worry about is Embiid not being a starter.
I mean, you still think he should be MVP? You still think he should be MVP?
Of course. Why wouldn't I?
Because Luka dropped 53 against the Pistons last night. So I mean,
he should. Yeah, no, I've always said Luka should be the MVP, but I'm saying like Embiid needs to be at least at the very number 2.
Okay.
He's better than Jokic. Clearly, we saw what he did against the Nuggets. Dropped 47 on them bitches. Had twice as much as Jokic did. But the NBA is posting like the NBA posted on YouTube, Embiid and Jokic combined for 71, when Embiid was 75% of those points.
Damn.
So yeah, but with the All-Star game is the Rising Stars, which I think is more exciting anyway, because we all know the stars. We all know the true All-Stars, so who cares?
I saw somebody argue on TikTok earlier today that there's too many stars in the NBA and they need to expand to, get the talent out a bit.
What?
Yeah, it's complicated. So the guy was arguing that the NBA during the 80s had this big bump in scoring because there weren't enough teams and there were too many stars for each team. So when they expanded in 1989, they saw scoring go down. Yeah, and he was saying we need to do the same here because scoring is going up and up because there's too many star players on each team. I don't see why that's a problem.
Well, it's tough because the Sixers have Embiid, Harden, Maxi's really good, and the Nets have Kyrie and KD, and the Warriors have, let's face it, Curry. The Celtics have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. But we've seen it with look at the Mavericks. You need more players. It's not going to help scoring. The NBA needs stars. The NBA needs teams to draw interest, and it's the Lakers. The Lakers are always going to be in discussion. The Miami Heat will always be in discussion.
Yeah.
The Sixers get sort of discussed a little bit. Boston's always going to be discussed.
Yeah.
San Antonio still gets discussed like we're in the early 2000s. Which by the way, I saw a stat. The Wizards beat the Spurs in San Antonio for the first time since '99. We were a year old the last time the Wizards beat the Spurs in San Antonio.
That's wild to think about. They were that good for so long.
We're 24 and 25 now.
Yeah. I can't believe it, man.
Like, can't believe how old we are, first of all. But
We're ancient, bro.
I know. But
I mean, you know how ancient we are? My doctor had to talk to me about high cholesterol.
oh my god,
Yeah.
you boomer.
I have chronic knee pain, chronic back pain, developing anti-stigmatism in my eyes, so now I'm probably gonna need new glasses. And
You have astigmatism? I have astigmatism too.
I'm starting to it just developed, but every time I try to drive at night, every light makes an X. It's
Wait, they
concerning.
didn't do that. Your eyes didn't do that before?
No.
Is that not a normal thing? Well, you learn something new every day, I guess.
Oh no, Kylie, what does this mean?
It means I'm blind as shit.
I mean, I am too, but
No, no, but for the NBA, we do have the rising stars, and for the sophomores, there's quite a few names that, obviously we all know of now. We have Jose Alvarado of the Pelicans, Scotty Barnes of the Raptors, Josh Giddey of the Thunder, Jalen Green of Houston. Jalen Green is a dog, by the way. Quentin Grimes, Bones Highland, who is probably going to get traded, but he's representing Denver for now. Evan Mobley, Trey Murphy III, I can't even say that name, and then Franz Wagner of the Magic, who I just strongly dislike. The rookies, Paulo Banchero leads it. I saw him play on Monday. That dude is a dog. He is so much fun to watch. He's going to be a problem for years. Jalen Duren, AJ Griffin, Jaden Ivey, Walker Kessler, Benedict Mathurin, Keegan Murray, Andrew. Wow, they have a lot of players. Jabari Smith, Jeremy Suckin, and Jalen Williams. And then for the G League, the notable one to me is Scottie Pippen Jr. I'm glad he's going to be in it because you don't see many former legends kids work out in the NBA.
Yeah.
Which has me fearful for Bronny.
Don't worry, LeBron is going to make sure that he works out. By the way, LeBron is under 100 points for the record.
Yeah, he's at like 87 now, right?
He's like 87 away. That's going to be awesome. Let's quickly talk about NHL and MLB. We do have one kind of sad thing from the NHL to talk about. And that was the death of Bobby Hall. If you don't know who Bobby Hall was, he's widely considered to be one of the greatest players in NHL history. He spent the majority of his career with the Chicago Blackhawks, where he helped them win their first Stanley Cup in, I think, nearly 30 years. And was a dominant force for them during the 1960s. He later would go over to the WHA and play for the Winnipeg Jets during the 70s, the original Jets, and he ended his career back in the NHL playing for the Hartford Whalers for one last season. Just listing off some of his accomplishments, he was a 3-time winner of the Art Ross Trophy. He was a first All-Star team left wing in 10-time All-Star, first team, should mention. Won the Stanley Cup championship in 1961, was second team All-Star twice, 2-time Hart Memorial Trophy winner, 1-time Lady Byng Memorial Trophy winner, 1-time Lester Patrick Trophy winner. He was the third player in NHL history to appear on the cover of Time magazine. He is the only player in the history of the NHL to win consecutive All-Star Game MVP awards, which he did so in 1970 and in 1971. He also had a ton of accomplishments in the WHA. He was a 3-time first-team All-Star, twice a second-team All-Star, twice an MVP, won 3 Avco Cup championships. If you don't know what that is, look into the WHA, guys. Its history is crazy. He's a Hall of Famer. He was ranked the 8th greatest hockey player of all time in 1998. And I mean, what else can you say about him? The dude was a legend of the Chicago Blackhawks. Also, his son Brett Hull is pretty good too. I don't know if you guys know much about Brett Hull.
He is
No
one of the
comment?
best
Really?
in Wayne Gretzky. I'm not the historian. You are. I'm still getting into hockey.
Okay, well, know that Bobby Hull was a legend. I think. Hang on.
I didn't
Was
even
this
see that he passed.
Yeah, he passed away earlier this week. It's a shame. His son Brett, by the
Mm.
way, was like a legend who played for the who won championships with the Red Wings and the Stars during the early 2000s.
Oh.
Yeah. Against the Devils, unfortunately. By the way, your Devils are still crushing it.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching them this year. It's refreshing because I was born in '98, and while I do love Brodeur, he is my favorite Devils player of all time. I love my goalies just like I love my pitchers in baseball and my quarterbacks in football. The Devils' dominance was just before my memory kicked in.
Yeah.
The last Stanley Cup we won was in 2003. I didn't even know what hockey was in 2003. My parents aren't big into. Well, my dad loves the Flyers, but my family doesn't really watch hockey. They don't watch hockey at all. Actually, I'm the only one that does in my direct household. Growing up, I was always Eagles and Phillies. That was pretty much that's it. Especially because the Sixers were ass, so we were all just Eagles and Phillies. That's what we grew up on. So my memory of the Devils kicked in when I was going into middle school. And unfortunately, because Zach Parise is also one of my favorite players, and we do have some guys that I just absolutely love. But
Yeah.
I remember in 2012 when we played the LA Kings in the Stanley Cup. That was the first Stanley Cup I had ever seen my team in, and we lost. So, and haven't been back since. So,
In an
I
in a cruel world, someone would call you a fake fan for that, but it's okay. Everybody finds their own path to the great sport of hockey.
how gonna call me a fake fan?
Well, some people have their opinions, but it's all good.
I never stopped being a Devils fan.
Yeah, no, that's the point. I'm just saying.
No, it's not my fault. My parents didn't teach me hockey.
You're good. You're good.
Uh,
I'm just being petty. Whatever.
I know.
Heading into the All-Star break, by the way, here's the playoff standings at the moment. If the playoffs were to start today in the East, it would be Pittsburgh at Boston, Washington at Carolina, Rangers at Devils, and Tampa Bay at Toronto.
Oh, yo, hold on. We get the Rangers? I haven't even
Yeah.
checked the standings.
You guys are second in the Metropolitan, so you would get the
Oh.
Rangers to start the playoffs.
Yes.
In the West,
Give me the
meanwhile,
Rangers.
in the West, which is way tighter than the East because of the East, Boston is just blowing everybody out. In the West, it would be Colorado against Dallas, Edmonton versus Seattle, who, by the way, Seattle is now first place in the Pacific in their second year of existence.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, Edmonton at Seattle, and then it would be Vegas at Los Angeles and Minnesota at Winnipeg. Hey, it's happening again. Vegas is starting to fall. By the way, remember how last year around this time I was screaming about the Pacific Division and how close it was?
Yeah, you made my ears go bad.
Yeah, guess how many points separate the top 4 teams?
How many? Damn!
The Pacific, once again, is a bloodbath. Central's pretty close too. Dallas and Winnipeg are separated by just 1 point. Meanwhile, in the East, everything is spread out. Boston is up by 11 points on Toronto, and Carolina leads by 6 points over the Devils. You guys can make that up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. One last thing to talk about before we head off the air today, folks. We're gonna quickly talk about the MLB because they announced the cover athlete for the new MLB The Show, Jazz Chisholm. What?
Yeah, Jazz Chisholm. I love Jazz. He's swaggy. He's a damn good player. Um, some people are saying it's too soon for Jazz because he hasn't, when a player's gotten the cover, it's, Bryce Harper, who was a former MVP. He would go on to win the MVP the next year. He got on and etc. We know Bryce. And over the years, the players have been coming off a very, very, very good season. Shohei Ohtani was the unanimous MVP, dude. We all know Shohei's what he did. But
Yeah.
and people are arguing Jazz isn't as popular as people think, and that's true. People that don't really watch baseball or aren't fans of the NFC or the NL East wouldn't know much about Jazz, but I like it. The cover actually looks pretty dope. So
I don't know if I'd pick
I'm not-
Jazz, but I'm glad he got on, I guess.
I wouldn't pick Jazz either, but he is the cover, and I'm going to buy it regardless, and I'm hyped. We all knew it was going to be Jazz when they released the cover, the art anyway, so it is what it is. Everybody's still going to buy the game, so it's just a cover athlete. It's not that serious.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm watching this time-lapse video of Tom Brady's evolution. This man 100%.
It's so weird, bro.
I might have to take his weird diet seriously because this dude was so chubby when he started.
I know. And then he just turned into this monster. This skinny monster.
Look at this. Who is that?
I know. I paused it at that point too. That looks nothing like him now. Look
Is
at
that Tom Brady? Is that Tom?
I would if I was like a 10-year-old and grew up on the later stages of Tom Brady and all I saw was that picture, there's no way in hell I would say that's Tom Brady. No way in hell. It does not look like
that's
him.
how he ended. Hang on.
Yeah, that's the Tom I know.
What happened? What happened?
Brady? No, I was gonna say. No, but yeah, I think it's dope. I like Jazz Chisholm on the cover.
I personally would have
Hopefully
picked,
he has a good season.
I personally wouldn't have picked Jazz Chisholm, but yeah. By the way, breaking news: MLB TV is partnered with oh wait, no, this is a joke. Never mind. Sorry. Thought that was real. Well, that was real. It was a Phillies Muse post.
Oh, dude, I love Phillies Muse. That's my guy.
What is this? He said, "Oh, these aren't baseballs. These are bombs." Okay.
Dude, do you follow him?
I am about to for that post alone. I'm going to follow him. That's hilarious.
He's actually like really freaking funny. He's your type of meme guy. You would like him.
Good. I'm gonna have to. Good. I like chaotic memes. Well, that is gonna wrap things up for us. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I got ahead of myself.
He's hilarious. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's gonna do it for us today. This episode of the Beer Bad Sports Podcast. Once again, sorry Calvin couldn't make it. He had business to attend to. We're not gonna tell that man how to live his life. This show, of course, is a proud affiliate of the Fired Up Sports Network. You can follow us on all socials at @bbsports_pod. Check out our Twitter bio for our merch. Go ahead and get you guys some. And yeah, check back next week, same time as we get set for the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny. As me and Kylie go to war over whose team is actually going to win this dang Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll finish it off with the Go Birds.
Red Kingdom, bitch.